Good evening and welcome to Legacy After the Locker Room. I'm your host, Kayla Bradham, here tonight with Major League Baseball's Trent Clark. Good evening, Trent.
Hi, Kayla. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to see you here. Thank you for your patience. We didn't record on Tuesday when we usually would because of Big Ten Media Days out in Indianapolis. You were traveling for work. I know you're super busy. Tonight works. Thank you.
Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, hey, we're going live Thursday night. It's a new night and sounds awesome.
I love it. So, Trent, let's go right into this and talk about baseball because you've actually been a part of three World Series. Where did that start? What did baseball look like in your house as a child?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of four. I had two older brothers, so I grew up as that young kid trying to compete with my 6 year older, and 4 year older brothers and their friends, right? And so I was getting beat up all the time on the playground playing football and baseball and basketball and everything else. And then when I started playing with kids my own age, I was like, this is easy. This is awesome. And so that's when I started having some success in that junior high years where we really started playing organized sports back then. We didn't start in kindergarten back then. So it was fun. And then, for me, it became this. So in the span of like 11 years, from like 1986 to like 1997 or nine. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. 1997, 11 years. So I just do this audit of excellence is what I call it, this walk. My high school baseball team played in three state championships, my sophomore, junior, senior year. And then I went on to the junior college national championships, actually in tennis. And then I went on to a couple years of college baseball where there was no championships at Toledo. And then I went on to but there were some summer competitions in the national. I was home. My home was in the national championship for the at CO Brown Stadium in Battle Creek. So there was some championship stuff in the summer, and then I went on to a professional career in 1995 and 1997. I was in the World Series at 25 and 27 years old. So in this 11-year span, it was just how do you become the best? How do you reduce inefficiencies and errors? How do you get the best personnel around you? How do you do all these things? And it was just a constant audit of excellence.
Wow. Well, we're going to ask what the answers are to those questions and
Good.
how people can figure that out for themselves because
Yeah.
you could save people years
Yeah,
of
I mean, and I think that's what pro sports are about, right? Like it is this culmination of hyper learning. We learned in one of the books, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Um, we learned about 10,000 hours, right? The 10,000 hours to be, an expert in something or to have that, right? And and we know that's not actually true because we see little 13-year-olds in the gymnastics and Olympics who are just amazing because they're shaped at a very early age with the best coaching in the world. So they hyper learn, and so they can do it in 6 or 7,000 hours. And so at the professional level, you bring all these athletes and coaches all together who have all these experiences from great coaching and from the best teams. And then you put them all together in this pot, and you're all just looking, how do we make it better? How do we get better? How do we do things a little bit more efficiently? And everyone's bringing all their experiences, and it's a dynamic of like 11 countries and 9 languages, and what was best in Venezuela and what comes from the Dominican Republic and Japan. And you just get all this melting pot, and you put it in, and you get just this great gumbo that comes out of it. Right? Like it's like amazing. And if you can sponge it all up, like you just hyper learn. It's awesome.
That's a great analogy. I love the gumbo analogy because that's so true. And that's the importance, I think, of being multicultural, multi-dynamic, being
Yeah.
diverse, right? Like that's really where the spices
Yeah.
melt and
The
it
good
tastes
stuff's at,
good.
right?
That's
You know, and
right.
and I think that's a lesson for people out there. Like I've started 12 businesses. I've hired a lot of people, even when I was in corporate management. And when people start giving me like the yes boss. Yeah, 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 that's me too. I think just like you do, right? And I'm sure that someone thought and were coached that that's the right thing to do to get a job. And I've had at least a couple people do that, and I have not proud of this moment, but, 3 years ago, I had someone come in and give me that, "Yeah, yeah, mhm, that's exactly what I think," as we're going through this interview process and telling me what I believe probably was what I wanted they thought what I wanted to hear. And I stopped the interview at about 20 minutes going, "Hey, is there gonna be an original thought? Because if you think just like I think, one of us isn't needed. And since I own the joint, it's probably you, right?" And we're not going any further. I need someone who's gonna bring a dynamic that I don't know about, like an experience, an expertise that we need that we don't have right now. And so that uniqueness of you is just that. There's never going to be anyone else like you. There's no imitations. So like own that. Like go in there, fire, guns blaring, like this is who I am and proud of it.
I love that. That is, the little blip of each podcast. Trent, that's this blip. Let's back up for just a moment. Tell our listeners the teams that you played with because we always have, a ton of fans and their favorite
Yes.
teams. Who'd you play with?
So I was done playing after college. Like, they gave me that "you'd make a good coach" talk, and that was a job transition is what was going on there, right? So I had my shoulder like cut on and the first surgery there, like I think like when I was like 23. And I had been playing hurt for a long time. So I became this conditioning coach with the Detroit Tigers. And one of my heroes, as a kid, I was 14 when the Detroit Tigers, as a Michigan kid, won the World Series. So now fast forward, I am now 24. And actually, I was 23 when I signed with the Detroit Tigers as a coach. And, man, Sparky Anderson was still the manager. Kirk Gibson was back with the team. Alan Trammell, Lou Whitaker, Lance Parrish, Dave Hernan, who was one of the champions on that 94 team, was now coaching. And, man, I was with my heroes. It was just a great time. And Ernie Harwell was the voice of the Tigers, and just great experiences for me. Then I went to Michigan State during the strike, and I was offered a position with Nick Saban, who I knew from the University of Toledo when he coached there, and then I went to Cleveland with the Indians and 95, 97 World Series with them. Had a great experience in my few years in Cleveland, and then signed with the Angels in Los Angeles and Orange County down in Anaheim in and I spent 7 years with them with great coaches like Joe Maddon and Mike Scioscia and just too many to even mention. Bud Black. It was just countless of just experienced coaches that were just some of the best in the world. And I had a front row seat sponging it up. So if I'm not a good coach, they would probably shun me, by the way. Like, dude, you had plenty of training. Like, what's wrong with you? Right.
So, Trent, I gotta ask to just the names that you throw out just make me smile. They make me drop my mouth in awe. Just great men, the really the legends. So you're with all of these great guys. You're picking up a wealth of knowledge, information, inspiration.
Yes.
What were some of those golden nuggets that you learned being in
Oh,
that great
I mean,
space?
yeah, it was such a great experience, and I take so many things from each one. And Coach Saban was, um, I have to defend Coach Saban a lot, and I loved Nick Saban's style, which is not for everybody. He is a dedicated, very focused person who takes out all inefficiencies and has a system, but he's also open to that system always getting better. He has had a great system for 25 years, and his system 25 years ago was a champion system. And now he's on version 25.0, which is even, it's insurmountable, right? Like in these teams that go up against him, he's got a system that just works, and he's humble enough to continue to get better. And I think that's just so important, even though he's won, countless national championships, right? And then, you get Joe Maddon, who's probably the best person I've ever seen at actually developing an athlete to his potential. And to be around people that just make people better, that make them comfortable in their own skin, that give someone the encouragement that's an immediate, it's like a dopamine dose of confidence, right? And I'm like, Hey, Joe, could you bottle that stuff up, man? Because if you could like wake me up every morning, I feel like I'd be on the road to like championship, man. Like I feel like he should be on my wake up call. Like, hey, this is Joe, and you're awesome, Trent, and I think you're really gonna get it done today. All right, try not to suck. And so and that was he was just so good at that, and you saw him do it, and he's still doing it right, time and time again, with young talent and developing them. And Mike Scioscia, who's both a champion as a player and a coach, and understanding that dynamic between the two, and the value of that, and really how to develop personal relationship. I think one of the things, probably most valuable things I learned along the way with some of these great coaches was the ability to understand and know your team and know what they're capable of and put them in a position to be successful. And whatever organization you're in today, like you have these players and they are all working on this team. And I would start with getting one goal for that entire team, like that everyone can contribute to, no matter how big or how small that contribution is. Every person on that team plays a role in creating that. The Cleveland Indians were very good at that. Some front office personnel were just so fabulous about creating. We are going to be a championship organization. Whether we won titles or not, we were going to be a championship level organization. We defined what that looked like. And the people that cleaned the bathrooms and prepared that stadium for our fans who are a part of that championship organization, the cleaning crew is a part of that championship organization, the field coordinators, the ticket salespeople, the accountants, the staff, of course, the players, everyone had a role and contributed to that championship organization, and they felt a part of that. And that is, if an organization can get that right to start, they are way ahead of 80% of their competition. You can put yourself in the top 20% right there. And then the second one was from Bill Belichick, who I never coached with, but I heard him talking, and he said, I know I have a great team when everyone on my team knows what they're supposed to do, one, and two, they're doing it. So when organizations call me and Leadershipity, we consult, we do training and development for all the mid-market companies who don't have that in-house. How do we develop our personnel? Well, let us help you do that. And we help them do that. And I would say that, 75% of the organizations that call me, they have all sorts of people who don't know their role and how they contribute. They have a certain percentage of people and personnel that aren't really clear. There's not clarity. One of those big idiots. There's not clarity on what their role is. And then you have that other side of personnel that we see in all of our organizations who have clarity on how they contribute, and they simply don't do it. Like they either neglect it, don't want to, don't like it, which is fair, but that's what they're being paid to do. And then they're not delivering on that. And wow, that is a subtractor from an organization. You are immediately becoming not an adder, but a subtractor to your team and your organization when that happens.
Wow, that's a deep wisdom. I have to ask, you're surrounded by greatness, and at some point you got to hang up the glove and move out of Major League Baseball, out of coaching, and find a new path. Number 1, Trent, how did you know when it was time to leave? Number 2, what was that experience like?
Mm. So, number one, my wife told me. So I listen to my wife. She's really smart and wise. So, I think it was more, a little bit more divine than that. I mean, we certainly prayed about things, and my wife and I had 3 young boys, and I had a couple opportunities to move, from the Angels to other organizations, and they didn't work out for whatever reason. And I had started a number of companies. Been an entrepreneur. I've started 12 different companies, and I did, I think, at least 5 of those brands while I was still in baseball. So that was not uncommon for me. And when I was in baseball, um, I got labeled, as a dream maker. And that really came from the fact, like, it was my dream to play in the major leagues. I was the kid running around my backyard with a wiffle ball bat in my hand, like, bottom of the ninth, Clark steps to the plate, waving the bat, and I'd knock one out of my yard and like Clark wins the World Series, hero. And then, I fast forward to I'm 25 years old and I'm sitting in the dugout and I'm like, I don't know, we're like in game 4 or something of the World Series. And I'm like looking out and going, oh my gosh, like these players are living their dream. Like we always say, hey, live the dream. Like they are in it. They are actually living the dream right now. And they're 20, they're 19, they're 36, but this is sometimes a lifetime of getting there, and it's like this is the dream and you're just living it. And it's amazing. And so, I started just paying attention in player development. Like, this is your dream. Like, what are you willing to sacrifice for your dream? And I had the knowledge to get you there. Like, I'm going to prepare you for what's about to happen in this thing because I was hurt before. I played the game. I knew what was going to come at you. I studied it. I had an audit of excellence, and this is what's going to happen. And I was the host of that auditor. Now, there's a bunch of people that serve these folks, right? There's all these people that surround you, and there's maybe 40, 50 people that are going to touch your career and be a part of you to lift you up. And there may be more than that. There really may be big numbers. They all have a role in that dream. And I always said, hey, listen, I'll make you famous. Like that's how it's gonna be. But what I learned out of that was all these skills that we learn as athletics. These, athletes in high school and junior high, and everybody's playing for a championship, and that's awesome. Like I love it, compete, great. There's so many lessons in it. There's so many lessons of life, and there's so many transferable skills. Right? When you learn an athlete, you learn confidence, which is nothing more than preparation and repetition. And in practice, you go, whoa, I wasn't very good at hitting a curveball. But then I started studying it. And I started studying the spin out of people. I started watching video. And then I went out and I hit thousands and thousands of practice curveballs in the cages in my practice. And I learned exactly what that looked like. And so you get these repetitions. And I always use the example of like driving. We're highly confident in driving because we were very well prepared as kids, and you're freaking out. You have no confidence. You're like, oh my gosh, someone's going to cross the middle line and kill me. Well, not really, because there's self-preservation, right? Like they don't want to die either. So like they're going to stay on their side of the road, and you get confident that people follow the rules and you learn the laws and you do it again and again and again and again. And like, if you ask me like, hey, Trent, can you run down to the grocery store and grab me something? When I was 35 years old, I would be like, I don't go out to the car and go, ooh, how do you start this thing again? Like, man, I get in, I jump in, I'm monitoring 60 different things, signs, traffic, making a call, eating a sandwich. Like we're multitasking all over the place because we're so confident in our ability. So we get these transferable skills of hyper learning, what hard work is and what it isn't. And how do we learn? How do I learn tactily? Do I learn, intellectually? Can I read it and understand it? Do I have to visualize? Am I a visual learner? Like, how do I learn best? And you learn coachability, one of the biggest idiots that everybody needs on their team, right? We need teams of coachable champions. And if we don't have coachability, like, how do you get better again? Because I'm not open to your feedback. Like, so there's all these transferable skills that are ready to just go in to whatever your next passion is in life and your other strengths in life. Like, I believe that God gave us people all these strengths. And when you're in a horrible situation at a work, maybe you're not working in one of those strengths that God gave you and what you have a passion for. And so finding that will be putting a player in the right position, will be finding out where they can be successful instead of saying, hey, square peg, round hole, you just get in there, just get in there. And that's not how we're going to create great teams, by putting people in a position they can't be successful. And for whatever reason, whether we didn't give them the training, whether they don't have the skill, whether they don't really want to, all those things. And I see organizations do that every day.
Man, Trent, nuggets, golden nuggets. Here's what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, Trent. Let's take a moment. Let's thank our sponsor, and then let's come in on the next segment and let's talk about those 12 businesses that you started. Really, what inspired you, what you're doing now, and how it's making the world a better place, creating hope and possibility. Before we do that, let's shout out our sponsor. Big thank you to Dugout Mugs. Here we are with Mr. Baseball, 3-time World Series coach. Use code Kayla30 to save 30% at checkout for Dugout Mugs and enjoy the baseball season. So, Trent, we're talking about transition, we're talking about retirement. Your life changed a little bit. You retire, you're starting some businesses. You start some of them while you're still in Major League Baseball.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about those businesses and what inspired you to create them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I started really young, Kayla. That was just something that inspired me. I was a newspaper carrier. I got my own routes. One of the first things I remember about being a kind of a business owner or a franchisee of a paper route was, I had to go play football when I was in 8th grade, and I needed my route done every day to get to practice after school. And so 3 of my friends, I hired $1 a day, paid them $5 a week to each do, my 3 routes. Each one took 1 route, and I paid them $1 and they got $5, and it would take them about, an hour or something like that. And so a little scratch money for them. And man, I went to football practice, and I made about $5 a day, doing newspapers. So in my 3 routes. So not big money exactly, but I came home every day from football practice making $2 and somebody else did the work. And I'm like, man, I went to football practice all week and made $10. And then I made my $10 on Saturday, Sunday. Like, not a bad week. I got this thing dialed in, right? I'm like, whoa, man, I'm going to be the next entrepreneur extraordinaire. Like, watch out, Warren Buffett. Like I thought I knew something, right? And I think, my dad was an entrepreneur. He owned his own accounting firm and taught school. He was an accounting instructor at a college. And then I learned I could make money, and I also learned I wasn't a great employee. So, I wanted to change things. I wanted to go in and like, it's not your role yet, right? And so, that was a blessing and a curse. Like, I had to learn to be, before I became a good leader, I had to learn to be a good follower. And I don't think I started there. I think I started like, my ideas are pretty good, and I think, some pride and arrogance were in the way, and thinking, I'm smarter than people, and I'll work harder than they will. And there was a lot of things I don't think served me along the way. But business gave me some real humble pie, Kayla. Like, I started a couple of things, and man, I got knocked on my keister, I think, just as much as sports knocked me down. And so I had to eat some humble pie, and I really had to get that through some businesses. And so, there was learning through that. And in fact, I took this one hit so bad. I had a business where I would design gyms for all the athletes' homes. So I had a cool business, and I would do pro athletes' homes, and I would show them like, hey, this is part of your job, so you can write this $100,000 gym in your home off because this is part of your job. So I would go in, help them design it. I had contacts to all the commercial reps in the sports because I was in, we had one of the best gyms in Cleveland with the Cleveland Indians in Jacobs Field back then. And it was incredible. And so all the vendors would come in and got to know them pretty well. And so I was building this business, and they were like, man, this is a pretty good business. So all the vendors were like, we should hire salespeople to do this. Okay. And we don't need Trent at all. And so before I knew it, like, I was really out of business. It was so fast. It was like 90 days. All of a sudden, nobody called me anymore. They had reps calling them, and they were calling on small companies to do gyms, and people were like getting healthy and getting fit. And this was affordable. And they were like, we can give, a better margin if we don't have to pay Trent. So it was smart on their part. And I just wasn't, very thoughtful. I'm like, man, I went to school for education and exercise science. So I didn't have a business degree. So I was like, man, I am not very smart. So my next business was a franchise, and I bought 1-800-GOT-JUNK in Phoenix, and I started a franchise so they could teach me like, hey, how do I run a better business? And I was like the 13th franchise of now probably like 300 franchisees now. And we were just learning along the way, and they showed me a lot of things that I learned. And Then I became a member of the entrepreneur organization, and that was absolutely a launching pad of lifelong learning, hyper learning from all these entrepreneurs that had come before, and learning and talking about the 5%, both the good 5% and the bad 5%. And just being challenged in that, and really getting vulnerable and authentic about, and honest about what you're good at, and what you're really mucking up, right? And it gave me ownership in my issues, where um I think it's tough. I think it's sometimes tough. Even in sports, we want to blame the equipment. We want to blame other things when things aren't going well, and we have to take ownership, right? And I think that part of maturity took me a long time to get there, and I don't even know if I'm still there, Kayla.
No, I get it, and I appreciate that humility. And the mark of, in my opinion, a really great leader is understanding that great leaders aren't born, they're developed, just like
Mm,
athletes, right?
yes,
Nobody is, you might have some natural bent, some natural talent, but it's developed. You can say hone your craft, develop your skill, whatever you want to call it. It takes work. So,
yeah,
Trent, first of all, I want to say thank you. I'm sure that people are listening, or maybe they're watching this right now. Maybe they'll catch it once it drops to all of the different platforms, and they'll say, wow, Trent has some real nuggets. I want to bring him into my organization. I want him to do some leadership training. I want him to do some public speaking. Trent, I put up here, for anybody watching, I found you. You and I are connected. First of all, thank you to Angel for introducing us.
yes.
But we're connected on LinkedIn, and that's real simple. Trent Clark. Trent, is that the best place for people to reach you?
Yeah, it's a great place to reach me. LinkedIn is a fabulous medium to get me. I am at Trent M. Clark on LinkedIn. And you can find me on Twitter and all that, either Leadershipity or Trent M. Clark. And you can email me directly at trent@leadershipity.com. And happy to always talk shop. And, we try to make a difference in people's life. And, our newest venture, which I'm so excited about, is the athletic influencer marketing, right? The NIL space, as we're trying to educate these young athletes on how to be an entrepreneur, how to take your brand and build brand awareness around you, and what that takes to be a business owner, and start sharing in that. Man, if I knew how to make $1,000 on a part-time job, like as a two-sport college athlete, like we worked pretty hard for nuggets of dollars for a little beer money when I was in college. And like now, the NIL gives athletes a real platform to share and help others. And, I want to help other people help other people.
I love your spirit, your attitude. Speaking of helping people help other people, Trent, I ask every guest on Legacy After the Locker Room to partner with me on my charity of choice, which is Special Olympics. I
Awesome.
might be catching you off guard because we didn't talk about this before the show, but would you be willing to make an autograph donation to
Sure. Of
Special
course.
Olympics?
You
Thank you.
bet.
Thank you. We have only a couple minutes left, Trent. I'm sure there were questions that I should have asked you that I didn't. I'm sure you have people that you want to thank and a few more nuggets that you want to share. Let me give you this last minute and a half for Trent Clark's parting words of wisdom.
Think for me, just, first of all, thank you, Kayla, for letting me be a part of it. For people that are out there and you're making a transition, sports is a great example of transition, but people are transitioning everywhere through different things and different parts of our lives, and realize that you've got a bunch more skill than you actually realize, even though maybe some of those muscles haven't been flexed and skills you've learned along the way. Listen, the public library is probably no more than 5 miles from you, and you have people in your life. And one of the things that I really encourage people out there is, if you're not sure the direction you're going and you need some help along the way, get a mentor, and go big on mentorship. I have gone, and they've been so influential in my life. Scott Robinson was a huge mentor for me. All these coaches you mentioned, such influence in my life. But make a hot list of 1 through 5 of the mentors that you really want to work with, people that who have done what you want to do. And the top 1% in the world, I am around all the time. And the reality is that most people don't ask them, how did you do it? Hey, could you help me get along and do something that you did along the way? They would love to pass along the knowledge and the education they've received because somebody before them helped them. So make that top 5. Start at number 1. If they say no, go to number 2. I guarantee you somebody before number 5 will say yes.
Everybody needs a dream team. Folks, my name is Kayla Bradham. I'm here today with Major League Baseball's Trent Clark, reminding you to live your legacy. Thanks, Trent.
Thank you, Kayla.